Campbell, welcome to Hope Stream. This is an exciting conversation for two folks who do somewhat similar things and just mom to mom. It's wonderful to have you. So thanks for joining me.
Gosh, thank you. This is a treat.
Yeah, we finally got the tech gods on our side and all of that stuff working. And I wanted to really have you, because, I love having a good family story where folks can really hear the real deal of, like, here's somebody who's been through on the roller coaster ride, through the trenches, gets what I'm going through, but also, how it changed your life and your career and what you're doing now. So why don't you just give us some background on your family? I know you told your whole story on Amber's video channel, which I got to see, but that was a while ago, wasn't it? I feel like.
Oh, gosh, I probably told that story 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. So,
Yeah.
And I told you before, I actually stopped it halfway through because I knew I wanted to, immediately, I'm like, I'm getting her on the podcast. And I didn't want to hear the rest of the stories, and it would be more fun to talk about with you. So fill us in on your story, what happened with your kiddos, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. So we have 3 kids. Our oldest is 2.5 years older than our middle, who's 4 years older than our youngest, and is the middle son who initially brought us into this wonderful world of addiction. He was a high school junior, and he just started to actually it kind of started the year before, just not be interested in being at home. He actually missed my surprise 50th birthday party. We didn't know his friends anymore, but I am completely naive and I'm just not getting that we have a problem. I just think this is teenage behavior.
Right. So
anyway, it all comes to a head in the fall of that year, which was, I think, 2008. And I realized we have a big problem, but I couldn't name it. I just could not name it. Eventually, after a series of questioning him on a particular day, he admitted he had a drug problem. So I looked up deep for drugs in the yellow pages, because what one does, and got absolutely nowhere for 10 phone calls, but eventually ended up in the right place and took him in. He did the assessment call. They took him in for detox, and my husband was out of town, and he said, do you need me to come home? I'm like, no, I just dropped him off. It was horrible, but I'm going to go home, and we're making lasagna. It was the day before Valentine's Day, and he'll be back next week, and this will all be behind us. I was so freaking naive. It was scary. So when I talk to parents now, and they're like, I know you think I'm stupid. I'm like, no, I don't.
Nope.
I do not. So anyway, that he detoxed. He was supposed to start IOP, which he did, which is how I met Amber, because she was running IOP. He was kicked out several weeks later for trying to buy drugs from someone in the group, because apparently that's a no-no.
Of course.
And so, but my husband and I had joined the family group, and Amber's encouraged us to continue to come to that. She's like, I would highly encourage you to do this, which we did, which we continued to do. And over that spring, we learned sort of how to let it get worse, and it did get a lot worse. And then we actually took him somewhere. Amber said he says he's ready. He's not. So take him somewhere that's free. So we picked a very fundamentally Christian place that was free. He made it 4 days, but I didn't expect more because it was really fundamentally Christian. But as in, you could only take the Bible to read.
Oh.
Serious. But anyway, so he came home, and somewhere shortly after that, I just had enough. There were drug dealers coming in and out of the yard. I would go down to wake him up to go to school, and the window was open and he was gone. And, he had a younger sister who was 13 at the time. Yeah. So I just snapped and said, dude, you can't live here. These are the conditions to live here. And he was like, well, that's not working for me. And off he went, which was really scary. And poor husband, by the time he got home from work, I was like, I have good news and bad news. We're having steak is the good news, but only 4, because the other person doesn't live here anymore. And he was like, hey.
Wow. And he was
ready to do that. He was 17.
17. Okay.
Yeah. Brand new 17. Right. So anyway, he was off doing God knows what. I seriously do not want to know. I heard stories from his brother every now and then, and just was like, I can't process this. But we got a call in July, and he said, I need help. I'll do anything. I'll go anywhere. I cannot handle this anymore. Please. And I was like, absolutely. So took him back to detox. And at that point, Amber and the team there was like, okay, we're finding this kid a place to go. And at the time, 17-year-olds in South Carolina were adults. And I was like, I don't want to take him to an adult program because he can leave. And I want him somewhere where he can't leave. So we took him to Georgia because in Georgia, he was an adolescent, so he couldn't leave. And he stayed 32 days. And somewhere in the middle of that, they were like, this kid needs sober living. He needs more help. So we began the process of researching sober living, which is near and dear to my heart because there's so much bad sober living out there, which I talked to 25 of them. And finally found this place right near where he was in Atlanta, Georgia, called Purple. And I knew immediately, this is it. And they didn't take 17-year-olds. So I just begged. And finally, Joel, the dad, said, well, how 17 is he? I said, he's 17 and 7 months. He goes, oh, he's on the dark side of 17. We'll take him. Right. And he was the first person they'd ever taken. I just think Joel felt so bad for me. He was like, I got to work with this woman. So anyway, it was a scene getting him in there. But once he was there, he just got it. He liked it. He embraced it. He has been sober since that. He will be 34 years old, December 16th. So that's 17 years ago. So that was fabulous. Meanwhile, his older brother had broken his back and we were in and out of the hospital for 8 weeks. He had a staph infection and got hooked on opiates. So he was not living here. He was attending college locally, but he was obviously using and stealing from us. And by the time I figured that out, he was knee deep into it. And that actually is a funny story in and of itself because I had known he had done it. We had gotten everything back from the pawn shop. I'd had serious conversation like, you don't have the key to this house anymore. Like, this is not happening. But somehow he did it again. And I was out of town on business trip and Frank figured it out and called Amber and they drew straws and Amber got the short straw. And she had to call me in the Chicago hotel and tell me. And I was livid. With my first son, I was heartbroken. And with this son, I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. I cannot do this again. And then he stole all my things and I love things. As you know, I dropped the diamond earring down the drain. I had almost lost my crackers. So anyway, I said, he's got to be in treatment. Like, I cannot deal with this. And she said, we are working on that. I said, well, okay. So when I got here, flew home, he was in detox. I picked him up. I drove him to Purple. Luckily, they were like, we would love to have another Manning. And so
you're on the
I
family
didn't speak
plan
to him.
now.
What?
You're on the family plan now.
Not just yet. It's going to come plan. Not then. Oh, I was so mad I didn't even speak to him. I know I slowed down because he didn't break his legs getting out of the car, but I don't know that I parked. I was done.
Yes.
And he did it. He did fine. He's had a couple little hiccups and ended up back there. And that's where the family plan came back in because he negotiated that because I said, I'm not paying for it. Like, you got to work this out, buddy. And ultimately, as those little relapses, I finally learned by my own, like something I teach clients all day long, which is these guys have got to get the message of tag on it. Like, there's no one out there that's going to keep fixing this. There's no one out there that's going to keep paying for this. Like, tag on it. When they get that message, and when he got that message is when he figured this out and got it together. So that has been, and both of them have stayed in the Atlanta area. They just have their people there. Yeah. They know what to do. My son married a girl in recovery. And so it's all been, luckily, it all worked out.
Yes, but what a wild ride to be on.
Mm-hmm.
For a while. What was the span of time that you were navigating all of this?
08 to 10 is when I took the second one to Purple. And then I started graduate school to do what I'm doing in January of 11. And I think I had the tag your it message somewhere in 12.
Wow. So you really learned with your feet in the fire of how things work and what people respond to. And of course, every kiddos different, but I agree that there tends to be, and I was this way, I only went through it with one, so I didn't have the second lesson, but I think in the beginning, and I'd be curious what you see with this with your coaching clients, there's, I don't know if it's like a wish or a dream or a hope that we think if we're just like, oh, but but they're going to come around and, I'm going to keep doing this, that somehow it's just magically going to self-correct. And
I think it's holding on to the old dream and avoiding the grief. I think that's sort of the combination. I use this phrase a lot, which is addiction is a loss of dream. This is not what we envisioned when we got pregnant, when we adopted them, when we reared them as they grew up. We envision our children, doing nice things, being lovely. So you really have to grieve that. And then you have to learn and figure out what in the fly to do now. And then you have to pray that the future is going to work out. And that's just a lot of emotions to navigate. And I find with couples, we don't navigate it simultaneously. My husband kept saying, oh, boys will be boys. He's just a teenager. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. And I was like, But I think it's just, we're naive.
yeah.
We're naive and we don't want it. Like I've had clients say, I think my child is bipolar and that would be better. And I'm like, no, really addiction would be better because we can end that. We cannot end bipolar.
Right.
And so I think there's that naivete is that addiction is this, and it is a horrible, horrible thing, but it can't possibly happen to us. I mean, I think there's that too. Like I was one of those people that when I would hear about it, I'd be like, they must not have a very good family life.
Yeah. What's going on in that family?
Yeah. What's wrong with those parents?
Yeah. I agree. I think it's the kind of the shame. And also, I think there is an element of the, like, this couldn't happen in my family, not necessarily from the standpoint of like hoity-toity superiority of like, oh, not in my family, but it's more of just, it feels so foreign. Especially if you come from a family that doesn't have addiction in it.
Right.
Which we didn't. So it was less about, oh, I'm like better than that, and more of just like, you might as well just send an elephant to stand in my bathtub because that would seem more normal having my kid using drugs. Right?
Absolutely. Well, and also back then, I mean, it never occurred to me that kids, like I knew something was up, but he never smelled like liquor or pot. So I was like, well, then it can't be. It did not occur to me that there were opiates available all over, including the school.
Right.
It just didn't occur to me.
Right. No, because you have this mental picture of what either a drug addict looks like or a drug dealer looks like. And holy cow, now they're like, it's Uber Eats is delivering the drugs. So there's your drug dealer is the Uber.
Apparently you could get it through the number 62 at the Taco Bell in Green.
Oh yeah. We had a McDonald's where, if you order a certain combination, that was the special combo, which I did not know.
You did not know. That's why I don't go to Taco Bell, and it's not Taco Bell's fault.
It's not. Yeah, it's wild. And so what was your younger son thinking when your older son started with this? Because was he in recovery by then?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell me about that.
I think at first he was like, dude, you just watch this movie. You know how it's going to play out. Like, what are you thinking? But then I think because of the way it happened through the back injury, there was a lot of, I mean, they were really close and they were really good, close brothers. And so I think he was very supportive of him. But by this time, I think he was in college. So he was very, very busy and kind of focused on his life. He's also very self-pres like I am. So he sort of takes care of his little nuclear world.
Right.
I know we went to visit him and talked to him every now and then, but I don't think there was a lot of interaction.
Yeah.
Now, I think with the relapses, he was like, dude, get it together. Like, I'm not having this because it hadn't happened to him. I think for whatever reason, he just got it. Now, just remember that from February to July, he was in and out of our home, living very dangerously. So maybe he got it because of that versus the other one.
Yeah.
really just got caught and was sent.
Yeah. It's really interesting, the back injury, because you often hear that. And I know there's a huge amount of people, especially earlier on. I think less so now because opioids have been so much more controlled. But earlier on, and it just frustrates me when I hear people say, that's just an excuse. They didn't get addicted because their doctor prescribed it.
Well, yes, you do. I think there's a fascinating statistic, and I am not sure what it is, but it's a large number of people who have been in the hospital for longer than 2 weeks and on opiates are addicted already.
Yes.
It's just not known because we're managing it.
Right.
But if you start to space that out, those people act just like addicts.
Yes. And they send them home with a bottle of 80 or whatever Oxy 30s or Oxy 80s.
For sure.
And at the time, that was normal. I think now it's
much not. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is good. Also, I know that's also a challenge for some people, but I just wanted to say that because I think people, it's easy to roll your eyes and be like, oh yeah, okay, there's a good story. And it's very real because there are certain people who, like, if I take an Oxy, I hate that feeling.
Oh God, I threw up. One time I took it and that was the end. I threw it. I just called the doctor and said, I'm bringing these back.
Right. But for other people, they take it and it's like, oh, this is good.
Here it is, the key to the kingdom.
Yes. And did your son feel that? Like, did he get
I don't know because he was not with it. Like he was so injured and I don't know. I guess so. He was super happy as he got better. Yes, as we were in the hospital for all those weeks. He'd stay up all night. We watched all the seasons to The Office all night long, and he was quite happy. Now that you asked that question, it was
You're like, wait a minute, why am I the one who's in more pain? You're in the hospital with a broken back.
Right. With a wound vac and PICC lines and...
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, actually, that's a really good question. And the answer is, yeah, he liked it.
Yeah. And that seems to be the case. I don't know anybody that's kind of like ho-hum on opioids. It seems like they either make you sick and you don't like them or you really like them. That kind of...
Yeah, I think you're right.
See. So you go through this. You've met Amber, who we just had on the podcast a while ago. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. That was super fun. And what were you doing before? Like, what was your career before? And how did you decide, like, I am going to go into coaching?
Yeah.
You were struggling.
So before that, I was the executive director for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation.
Okay.
So I was fundraising. And before that, I'd done a lot of selling and I've been an entrepreneur. I've done many things. But so I was doing that, joined the parent group, really liked that. And that parent group ran really nicely because you got a mentor couple. And I really liked our mentor couple. We became friends. And and they lived like 40 minutes from us. So I had been to their pool for the afternoon. She and I had just been talking, wonderful day. And I'm just driving on the highway home. And I was like, I really like being a parent. And by now I am a parent mentor. And so I'm like, I really like this. Like, I wonder what it would be like to do this full time. And then I was like, wait, I wonder what it'd like to be a counselor. So I called Amber. I remember it was on the ramp coming into our downtown. And I said, hey, I've had this thought. What do you think? She's like, oh God, yes, you would be so good. I said, well, what do I have to do? She said, we got to take the GREs. You got to pass the GREs. And I'm like, college is like a long way to go. So I decided I would get the book out of the library and I studied all summer long the math and the science. I was fine on the rest of it. But I mean, I had flashcards of my geometry and I took them and I did really well. And so then I was like, well, snap. And so I applied to Clemson, which is about an hour from here. And it's a K-CREP school. So that was a leg up in the counseling world. They were highly accredited. You did better. I got in. They took 14 people after the big interview. And I was like, my God. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to grad school.
Go back to college.
I loved it. Oh man, Frank gave me a gift certificate to Staples that year. And right before school started in January. And I was like a kid in a candy store. I think they're still talking about me because I'm over there with the spiral notebooks and the pens. And I'm just like, oh. I was a nerd all the way through grad school. I know those other kids were like, God, I hate old ladies being in school.
What
But I
is he
loved
doing
it. I
here?
drew cartoons for all the theories. Like I was in it. And I was working full time still for JDRF.
Wow.
It was insane. And so after the first year, I quit JDRF and just went to school, and we lived off student loans, like as and learned how to have hot dogs without buns because we had no money. And then had done my first internships. You have to do 3. And I was in the summer getting ready. I started to apply to other ones. And Amber called me one day and said, hey, can you have lunch? And I was like, sure. So we had lunch. She had a new baby and we met for lunch. And she's like, so you do your next 2 internships with me and then help me start a private practice? And I was like, what? What?
How amazing.
I was like, hell to the yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I learned at her knee. I was in every session 6 days a week, just lived with her basically on this little tiny black Dr. Rowley stool while she sat in this big red soft chair. And I'm like a giraffe.
This picture in my mind.
Oh yeah, because I'm like nothing but legs and arms. I'm 5'10", like just, and she's like really short. And so I'm just like, it was just fabulous. I loved every minute of it. Didn't get paid a dime.
Wow.
And then we started Hope for Families. And I guess actually the semester before I graduated, I did start seeing clients for a very low rate. But that's where I was born.
Incredible. And you guys help not only family members, but also people who are struggling with substance use disorders, which I think is amazing because you're seeing the whole elephant.
We try to see the whole system whenever possible. So a spouse and a spouse, or parents and child, or sibling and brother, whatever it is, we try to see a system so that we can actually get more knowledge that we need and then move where we need to go faster.
Right.
Instead of listening to a bunch of lies and lies and lies.
Well, yeah, it's hard to know what you're dealing with. Mostly I think the parents are upfront. I do think that whenever I'm coaching somebody, I'm like, I wonder what they're not telling me. I wonder what I'm not hearing or not.
Yeah, I hear a lot of minimization, and I have a lot of clients that, like, I'll say, I think you have a problem. Like, and they're like, no. I'm like, first of all, why did you book an appointment? It's super expensive, and you know what we do. If you didn't think you have a problem, I'm kind of confused why you booked this session.
Yeah.
But I think they want me to say, yeah, I think you're right. It's nothing. And I'm like, I think you have a problem.
Yeah. You came to the wrong place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're working with parents, I would love to just hear from I'm not a counselor, but from a coaching perspective, the things that I see most parents struggling with are 3 things. Control. I want to control this. I'm going to fix this. Allowing natural consequences, because it's so scary. And then figuring out, what do boundaries look like? Like what do
boundaries.
safe and healthy boundaries look like?
Well, I think the bigger thing I see is a lot of people that can't have a boundary. And I think that's the number one thing people need to think about when we're even beginning this journey is, am I going to be able to do what this person might tell me to do? Do I have that? I just talked to a client and I identified her husband can't. And I said, it's like they have an extra vein in their heart that keeps too much blood going to the heart. And so they can't hold a boundary, versus I don't have that vein. And so I can, which she was like, well, I feel better that he's just not a bad dad. I said, no, I think he just has a soft spot for her. And he believes that what he's doing, that this will be the last time she asks for money, or this will be the last time she uses. So I think boundaries are a huge, huge, huge thing. In fact, that's why Kim and I developed that course, is because you need to know your relationship with yourself. Then you can be told what to do if you have that ability. I think the bigger problem I see is just lack of knowledge of what to do. Like, I think the misconception out there is that a 28-day treatment will fix it, and it just will not. In and of itself, it will not. And so I feel like I'm constantly bursting the bubble of, what treatment center should I send my child to? I'm like, I think we need to look at long-term sober living That's the bigger issue. And that's a big pill to swallow because, like me, with the first week of detox, when I thought naively, oh, this will all be done, they want this to be done in 28 days so that they can grab their dream and have it back.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole 28-day thing is just, I'm so glad you said that because I also am like, I hate to tell you this, especially with an adolescent, because, and it's even harder for them because there is no like sober living for adolescents.
There's not. You're so hosed if you have a 15 or 16-year-old, which is tragic.
I know, it is heartbreaking. And there are places for them. Obviously, there's residential treatment, there's therapeutic boarding schools that cost $1 billion a month.
$1 billion. And then eventually, even, I've got one now, he's a 10th grader. And even those things are like, unless you've got 500 grand to keep him in high school the whole time, even that, they're like, after a year, well, he's ready to come home. Like, well, no, he's not. Like, he cannot go back to this high school.
No. If there was a solution for that, my heart goes out to the parents of adolescents, and that's extra hard. But yeah, the boundaries thing, I think, first of all, we have trouble, some of us, with boundaries just in life in general, right? Like, we don't know where our boss's boundaries should end, or we don't know where our mom or our cousin or whatever. And then when you have to apply a boundary to your own child who is often under the influence of very strong substances and not being themselves. It's not like you're working with a sober, rational person. It gets so complicated, which is, like you said, like when you're working as the coach or the counselor, you don't have that emotional umbilical cord. So you can be much more objective. You can be much more in tune with what's really going on, because you can see it with a clear lens versus the parents who see it through that rose-colored love lens, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
What are some of the situations that you see come up over and over, maybe with adolescents and then also with young adults, that you see parents getting tripped up with the most?
Getting the parents on the same page is a huge one. There's usually, like I always say, there's someone with a softer heart. We always have to work with a softer heart. I'm always like, we are not going to push against the soft heart, because if something were to go south, this will ruin your marriage. So we just got to wait till we get on the same page, and we have to be patient. And sometimes that takes months and months and months or longer, which is very, really difficult. So I end up seeing the one that's got the harder heart individually because they're so frustrated. So they stay while we let the soft heart figure it out. But I see that a lot. I see the concept of, I cannot possibly hold a boundary that my child cannot live in this house. That's probably number one. And these are like often like 24, 25-year-olds who have just not launched due to substance abuse. But the parents are like, well, I can't tell him he can't live here. I'm like, then he's going to live there, but the situation isn't going to change, because until his life becomes unmanageable as defined by him, he's not going to change. And that's a really difficult concept to sell, because they do exactly what you said at the beginning, which is, if I can control this, if I can cajole this, if I could punish this, if I could yell this, if I could limit this, if I can drive him to and from work, like none of that's going to work, but it takes them a long time to figure out. And then I think it's the concept of, they really need to go somewhere about 2 hours from your home, ideally, for 6 months to 24 months, which then means they kind of need to live there for a while, because that's now their world. But addiction loves change, and you send it somewhere for 2 months or 3 months and you bring it home, that's not enough change. And the brain is just beginning to recover at 2 months.
Oh,
it's no brain recovery at 28 days, zero. All we've done is limit access to substances. I mean, I could go to rehab for Fritos for 28 days and I wouldn't eat a Frito. They're not there. I'm not going to eat them. But then I come home and they're at the grocery store, or God forbid in my pantry, and definitely at the office, I'm going to have a Frito within a week or two.
Yes. Yeah, that aligns exactly with what we see. And I think the message, I can't remember if it was you or Amber that I heard say this, which I thought was just really true and beautiful, but also impactful, which is, as you are working on figuring out your boundaries and you're working on your relationship with the co-parent, it's really, we're just going to be in this longer.
Mhm.
And that's okay, but somebody is suffering a lot, right? Our kiddo, and sometimes it doesn't look like they're suffering. It looks like they're having
100%. Yeah, they're miserable. And I mean, at the beginning, obviously they're not. But when we get into stage 3 and 4 addiction, they're not happy. I've had so many clients tell me over the years, and one of my kids, like, I actually had a young guy, like 30, who said, I would actually be angry if I woke up in the morning. He said, I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I was using with so much abandon that I didn't care. And then when I would wake up, I'd think, damn it, I have another day where I'm going to do it even though I don't want to. And that shame and that suck of pride and connection with yourself, that's what addiction feeds on, like Pac-Man points. It loves isolation and people that don't like themselves and shame.
Yeah.
It's like, there it is. That's now I'm going to do it because I have all these negative things going on.
Yeah.
I say it's the only disease that guarantees it's going to happen because it makes it happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I think it can be a motivator to say, yes, this is uncomfortable for you as a parent to have to hold these boundaries, to have to make these very painful, excruciating decisions. And it's a gift to your child because it is not really very compassionate and empathetic to leave them in the state they're in.
I say it's over-loving. You're over-loving. I get it. It's out of fear. It's anxiety. It's out of grief. I understand it. I'm not condoning it or shaming you for it, but that's what's happening. But you're over-parenting. It's over-loving. It's going to kill your child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your child's like doing a bunch of fentanyl.
Yeah. It's such a twisted thing, right?
It's like a cruel disease because of that. I mean, when they say it's a family disease, that's part of it is that it's cruel to the parents. It's cruel to the kids. It's cruel to the siblings. It's just cruel. And it just keeps getting crueler and endless. It's endless until it's like lava.
Yes, it is. It is, and I don't have a child who's ever had cancer or any other horrible thing like that. I just think there's a difference in addiction because you are watching your child do it to themselves.
Right.
And it is that torture but I'm watching him put this into his body, which I know could kill him, and I cannot do anything about it.
I call it disenfranchised grief because, like, if you have a child with cancer, or your mom dies, there are cards and people bring casseroles and churches help you and your neighbors rally around you. And so the grief can dissipate. But with addiction, none of that happens. There aren't any cards.
You
There's
didn't
nothing.
get a casserole on your friend?
I did not get one flipping. I did not get one flipping
Did
casserole.
not
In fact,
either.
I had no friends at the end. Like we got dropped like crazy. But I guess I didn't have any friends to begin with, if that's the truth. I mean, I do have friends, but not many. But
yeah.
But so that's disenfranchised grief because there's nowhere to go but right here. So it's in me if I'm a single parent or a spouse. It's within us if it's just a couple. Like, it's just right there. And so it's just spreads all over the family. Like, my daughter, she doesn't anymore because she's 29, but all through high school, she's like, and do you remember that you did not decorate for Halloween? I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, but it was a bad, bad fall.
That was a bad Halloween.
But she was just scarred. And we had a pumpkin, period.
Right. Bless her heart.
Bless her heart.
Oh my gosh.
She actually is what her words got me to realize the tag you're it concept, because he had called during one of his relapses. And I remember being downstairs on the patio, and I must have looked grief stricken or whatever my sad face was. And she came out on the deck and she was like, what? I mean, she's like 14 at the time, maybe 15. And I said, blank, blank, so-and-so relapsed. And she was like, she literally put her hands on her skinny little hips and she said, how much more time, emotion, money, energy are you going to give addiction? Mom. And she just turned around and spun on her little heel and closed the kitchen door. And I was like, I just got schooled and I think I need to listen.
How powerful.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a really great place to leave people and let them kind of noodle on that. What I love, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes directly to the page where folks can work with you.
Oh, thank you.
You work with folks on the phone, but also email, which is awesome.
Or Zoom. We do a lot of Zoom.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do an email consult, which is much cheaper, or you can join the membership and ask a question on the live call every Wednesday. And a lot of people do that because that's, for $40 a month, you can ask questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for going back to college, doing what you're doing. I love that. And
I say all the time, I'm so sorry it happened to the boys. I really am heart-stricken about that. But I am not sorry it happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I love my new life. I love everything about my life.
That's so amazing. Well, we are so fortunate that you do what you do, and just keep at it. Keep helping the parents, and we just appreciate it so much. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. It's been delightful.